Hey, kia ora. Welcome to Before the Dirt Nap podcast. I'm your host, Helen Brahms, and this is podcast number 1778. And as you can see tonight, I am super excited because we have a very special guest with us. My dear friend and mentor, Casey Eberhart, is joining us this evening.
Kia ora, Helen. Kia ora.
I love it. I love it. So, Casey, tonight we're not going to be talking about us and podcasts. That's for July 31st when you come on.
Perfect.
So tonight we're going to be talking about Networking Riches, which is coming up on June 25th and 26th.
I'm really excited about this one.
Oh, I'm always excited when it comes to Networking Riches because I never know what new stuff you're going to put in there or the really cool people we got to meet. So I thought it'd be cool to talk about some stuff about networking and then how we're going to... Oh, I do have to show you one thing, though. Look what I found when I was cleaning out some boxes this weekend, and I found you 147.
Oh my gosh, that's from the Serious Wayback Machine. But you know what's
on
what's really
CD?
It's on CD, but you know what? In all honesty, that is making a comeback because what we found over the last 5 years, I mean, since COVID, really, is businesses have taken their eye off the ball in terms of generating leads. So the problem is that even with networking, I mean, I love networking. We're going to talk all about it, and it's a great source of leads. But if businesses don't have multiple lead sources, then they're going to find themselves on the short end of the sticks somewhere down the track.
Absolutely. I can't tell.
Well, I go back, and it's so you want to know something funny? You think you can bring something back from the dead? Let me at least play the game. This right here are the recorded notes from that CD set. And what I used to do, each one of these cards has one of the ideas on it. So when I recorded it, each one of these. And what's funny is if you'll notice there are pink tabs and yellow tabs. When I was on speaking tour, I was doing podcast interviews and we were talking about lead gen. If it was a long podcast, these were all, the yellow ones are all the ones I would talk about.
Oh,
if it was a short podcast, it was only the pink one. So I could go through and I could quickly pull out a bunch of different lead sources for businesses.
Well, I have to say, I have listened to that. I don't know how many times I've listened through that CD set. And when I found it, I was like, oh, I got to sit down and listen to it again. So I will be listening to it. And I have
some good stuff. I do sound like I'm 40 years younger as well. So that makes me funny.
But I love it because there's so many cool ideas on there. I mean, even like putting a flyer on the tray table on an airplane.
I still do that today.
Yeah.
I mean, if I have a flyer for a business that I'm promoting or working or an event and I'm traveling, right before I get off the flight, I will pull the tray table down and tape the brochure to the tray table and put it back up and leave and make sure there's a QR code on there so somebody could actually scan it or take a picture. Or I'll even say something like, put this flyer in your pocket and take it off a flight or whatever.
Yeah. I mean, there's some awesome leads. Very much out of the box thinking for some people. Some people are going to sit there and go, what? Put a Post-it note in a toilet? on the wall of a toilet?
That's a whole nother one. Hey, Evelyn, good to see you. It looks like Laura Clarkson is on as well. Woo-hoo! Hey,
guys. So what are some of, now I'm going to ask you, I've got a whole bunch of questions here and I've highlighted some of them. How's the landscaping of networking changed over the last 10 years? Because you've been doing Networking Riches now for 10 years.
Yeah.
And how much have you found the change on, well, of course, the global pause had a big in that one.
Yeah. So here's what happened. Technology has changed things. Efficiencies have changed things. The marketplace, I think, also has changed things. So let's say 20 years ago, 10 years to 20 years ago, really before the internet took off, Zoom took off, StreamYard took off, all of these places took off, people would literally need business. So what would they do? They would get in their car and they'd go congregate at like chambers of commerce, right? And that's where the local people would meet and greet and you would get to know people. And then we had some of these networking events show up that like a BNI, a Latip team, where you can go join a group and kind of had exclusivity in terms of your particular category. And the idea is that if you have some visibility and you build some credibility, then ultimately it turns to profitability and referrals and all of that. And that's all based on the premise that the more somebody knows, likes, trusts, and remember you, the higher the likelihood they are to refer your business. And so much of business is done via word of mouth. Well, here we are 10 years past that. And we just have, at the end of the day, the friction of having people get to know you, or the friction of getting in the way of getting people to know, like, trust, and remember you is collapsed through Zoom, through YouTube, through Facebook groups, through meetups, through live events. So really, the landscape or the idea of networking really hasn't changed. What has changed is the mechanism by which we find people. And what networking is really based on, and people won't say it this way, but I like to crack it open a bit, is people want to go where they feel like they belong. They don't want to go to places where they don't belong. So I find that what happens is, let's just talk live events, there are groups that feel very inclusive, meaning, hey, everybody's welcome. And there are groups that are exclusive, meaning that if you don't fit our criteria, you're not going to make it in here.
Yeah.
Right? Sometimes they do memberships like chambers of commerce. If you're a guest, you may not feel like you belong. Right? I use the example of church, not for a religious point of view, but for a concept perspective. It's like, if you believe everything that the church is preaching, then it's inclusive, right? Like, you're a member. But if you are not of that religion, going to a church, it feels kind of squishy, right?
Yeah.
Networking events are the same thing. It doesn't really matter what deity you believe or don't believe in, but I just conceptually. So what I have found is that now we can get to the people that are our best customers, our best referral partners, way faster, way easier, and the line of friction in order to find them is almost non-existent.
That's awesome. So going along that same line, where do you see networking evolving over the next 5 years?
Yeah, so that's actually a really good question, and I'll even take it a step further. You can actually add in there, with AI coming onto that sentence, and so this is my hypothesis. My hypothesis is, first off, I will say I don't believe there are very many people walking the planet today that have any idea, from my point of view, how much AI is going to impact us 3 years from now. I really believe that AI will be a bigger impact in our daily lives within the next 5 years than the microwave was, or that even the internet was. I truly believe that. So if you look at it and you go, okay, well, what is AI? Where's AI going to leave off? What can it not do?
Yeah.
It really comes down to community. And it really comes down to belly to belly, shaking hands, or being connected to other human beings in this process. So if I look at where it's going, or where networking is going, what I would tell people is that now's the time to really build not just an audience, but to really build community, really build that core group of your people that you are still connected to just as human beings, not even like remove business out of it for a second, just as human beings, right? I run an event for real estate investors every Wednesday, and we got into this whole discussion about fast food restaurants. And I was saying that I'm watching, and I travel a lot, so I see a lot of different places. And here in Los Angeles, they are now moving to a kiosk version of ordering. So you go up to the kiosk and you place your order. And I said, I don't like the order. It becomes a pain. Well, now the kiosk in the last month or two will now literally say, hey, Casey, welcome back. Here are the last 4 different orders that you've placed around the country. Do you want to match any one of these? And I click the one that has all my special requirements in, and now it's frictionless.
Yeah.
Right? And everybody's all freaked out by that.
Drive-throughs.
What?
You can even now do that on the phone with a lot of the fast foods have their apps where you can go and place the order and either pick it up inside, have it curbside delivered, or some of them will even have a mobile drive-through area.
Robots. We have little R2D2s in Los Angeles that move food around. It's hilarious. They're like, I saw 3 of them today when I was down at the studio. They just drive by and they're delivering food. And here's the thing. There are going to be people that are going to go, AI sucks, get off my lawn, and like huff and puff about it. And you know what? Your opinion does not have any effect on whether it's coming or not. It's coming.
Yeah.
You cannot stop it. So you can try to thwart it. But if we know that it's coming, why not embrace it? Why not build a community around people that are using AI to the advantage of creating communities, creating an event for people to gather. So where do I think it's going? I think it's sort of that thing where we're going to get so far on the pendulum of technology that that it will swing back somewhere in the middle to be back again, human to human.
I love the human. I miss the human. Even though I'm an introvert, I miss the human to human contact. I miss going to live events and being able to hug people and shake hands and meet them face to face.
We just have to remember, though, Helen, and I agree with you. But remember, we've got a group of 16 to 18-year-olds that in 2 years are going to be running the world. So we do have to also take into account their thoughts, feelings, desires, and how they operate. Because if we don't, we're going to get smoked.
Yep.
Right? And so this is a problem. When I say that stuff evolves, a lot of stuff evolves because people are retiring out that were so focused on that human-to-human contact, and they just got behind the times, and now they're kind of retiring. I mean, these stats freak me out. Right now, we have 10,000 business owners retiring every day.
10,000?
10,000 a day.
Wow. Is that just in the US?
Just in the US.
Wow.
80 to 90% of businesses that get listed for sale never sell, and they just close their doors, which means all those employees, all those customers, everybody is affected. It's one of the reasons why I acquire businesses, right? Because I want to do my part to keep as many people employed, keep as many jobs going, keep as many customers being served by businesses. Because let's just take an example. I'm going to make this up. A locksmith, Milo's Locksmith, a little 1, 2, 3 person employee, a locksmith up in Washington State. Milo gets ready to retire. He's got 2 daughters. Neither of the daughters want the business. What happens? He tries to sell it. It doesn't sell because someone's like, locksmith, why would I do that when I can go do TikTok videos and make $3,000 per brand deal? So the locksmith closes. Now we've got 3 people out of work. You got a bunch of customers that no longer get served. This is happening all over the world, frankly. And networking belly to belly is going to help it a little bit. But this is why building a network now is so critical and vital to your business, to your business's thrivability down the track.
Yeah, I totally agree with
and I
that.
don't say that to scare people, right? I hope people don't watch it and are like, oh my gosh, he's like all, the world.
So the very first day I met you back in May, June of 2011. So it was at a LinkedIn workshop. And I remember you jumping up and saying that in 5 years, the 13-year-olds are going to be running the country because they'll be eligible to vote. And you started going on about having to learn now how to communicate with them. That has never changed. And you just brought it up again. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that has never changed. That thought has always been there, that the 13-year-olds in 5 years are going to be able to vote and they're going to be running the country. Decisions.
Let's break it down. Think of a 15-year-old. If you're watching this, think of a 15-year-old in your life. Mm-hmm. A niece, nephew, neighbor, whatever, 15 years old. You have 1,000 days until they vote, and you have 1,000 days until they are given credit cards. So if you don't do something to talk to the 15-year-olds of today, when they are 18, they run the world.
Yep. It scared me 10 years ago. It's still scaring me today.
And see, I love it. I think it's fantastic. My favorite thing to do is I have 2 young nephews. One is 21 and one is 24 now. Jeez, I can't believe we're getting that old. But when I go see them, one of the things I love doing is I will say, hey, I want you to go grab 5 or 6 friends, and I'm going to take you to Red Robin or whatever goofy restaurant they want to go to. And I'm like, I'll pay for your lunch. I'll pay for your dinner. I just want to sit and ask you guys questions. And let's just have a conversation like, what's going on, right? And it is fascinating when you actually get some young people in a room and have them talk, what they care about, what they clearly don't care about. It's very different than what you and I might care about. Mm-hmm. The technology that these kids use. My 21-year-old nephew does not even have an email account. And he is a Steadicam operator here in Hollywood, which is a very, very, very high technical skill set position in the film business. They do not operate with email accounts.
They just do text. They just do what, messaging and
text messaging, WhatsApp, and Snapchat.
Wow.
That's how
I
they
remember getting my niece to show me how to use Instagram a few years ago.
Yeah.
She's like, oh, you need to be on Instagram. And I'm like, well, I got no idea how to use it. I said, it's on my phone. What do I do? And so she set it all up for me and showed me how to use it.
Yeah, it's huge.
Yeah. It's like people today saying, well, I don't know how to use it. I says, go hire a teenager. They can teach you better than I can.
Well, go hire a teenager or go to YouTube, which is where everybody's going.
Yeah.
See, this is the funny thing is literally today, I was doing a training call for our mastermind and a question came up. And a question came up where we needed a piece of code. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I literally went to YouTube, Googled it or YouTubed it, found it, and had it within seconds.
Yep.
Within seconds. Mm-hmm. And so if you're a business owner and you go, well, I don't watch YouTube videos, so therefore I'm not going to consider doing videos for my business. Well, that person that had that video up there got paid for me to go to his video today.
That's awesome.
It's just, it's the world is a shifting and you got to shift with it, you know?
Absolutely. So now I'm going to throw you another question. What inspired you to start Networking Riches back in 2014?
It's so funny because I'm like having this like flood of memories because it was so powerful for me. So back in 2010, well, let me back up. 2008. In 2008, I had started with a network marketing company. I didn't know anything about network marketing or MLM or home-based business or anything. I was so far out of my consciousness. I come from the amusement park world and the movie production world. I was a general manager of an amusement park and a water park when I was a kid. I moved to Los Angeles. I was making movies. I had no idea about network marketing was at all. But I did know that I had some fundamental skills, and that was to build relationships with people, to pour into the relationships that I had, and to always stay connected to the people that were kind of in that top echelon of influencers in my, I guess now what we would call a network. And so what I found was that when I joined that network marketing company, I like skyrocketed to the top of what I now know is a comp plan. And I was building this big team and I didn't really understand why. And I kept having people tell me every single, like, I don't know who to talk to. 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 And then it would always seem like I would go to events and I would be being asked to speak, or I would be like the guy in the back that sort of knows everybody. I'm connecting everyone. And so honestly, what it really came out of was at the time I was building a network marketing business. I knew what I was doing to get success. And I just wanted to teach that to other people. So the reality was even the title, Networking Riches, actually sounds kind of sleazy and weird today. But at the time, it was literally like the riches are in your network. Mm-hmm. So even with that CD set that we started off with, 147 ways to generate leads, how to have more leads in time, was the same exact, came out of the exact same conversation, which is how do I help other business owners be successful just based on my goofy stuff? Right?
Your goofy stuff's good.
Well, my goofy stuff is goofy, but here's the thing. It works.
Yeah.
I try not to make it complicated. Like to me, I was just telling our mastermind this today that what most people don't realize is how much, we'll say money, but how much resource is placed for me in going out and seeing what's out there and what people are doing and what tools are being used and what new events are coming up and what new platforms to help people on events are coming up. And when you start really scratching the surface of what's out there, you realize that somebody just needs to come in and make it pretty simple. And really at Networking Riches, that's what the event aims to do, is to take the entire complex conversation around networking and bring it back to something where you can be intentional, you can be on purpose. And the way we break the event up is it's like, okay, here's what we do to find the events we should be going to. Where do people hang out? How much money are we making per person that we know in our network? When you start to figure that out, you start to go, oh man, I'm showing up like it's a $4 conversation.
Yep.
right? So we talk about like what events to go to, where to find those events, what to do before you ever get to the event, what to do at the event from open door to closed door, what to do when you leave the event, what do you do once you leave the event and you start to build a relationship, and how do you all bring it full circle and bring it back together so that you can nurture people over time.
Mm-hmm.
We know that people are now to the point where it's taking somewhere between 100 and 700 minutes of somebody knowing you before they buy from you. We all know the 18 million statistics around the fortunes in the follow-up. It takes 12 touches and blah, 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 blah. It's all true.
It is true.
So what Networking Riches really does is it takes all that hard stuff and it brings it right back in a fun environment so that you walk out and you go, you know what? Maybe I'm going to events that don't really serve my business. Maybe I'm showing up looking like a skater, but it's a business event, right? Maybe I'm getting there and my message isn't landing because I'm drinking 3 glasses of wine before we ever get started. Or, hey, you know what? I'm going to an event, I'm smoking cigars and nobody wants to talk to me, right? We break all that stuff down in terms of how we make it easy for you to just take the framework and go lay it down on any type of event, whether it's a digital Zoom event, a webinar event, or even a live event.
That's awesome. So what are some of your most impactful success stories from previous Networking Riches? I know there's a lot of them to think about.
Yeah. I mean, there are so many. Well, having someone like you join our Platinum Inner Circle, huge impact for me. The relationship that I built with you and Brad when we first started this thing, and transitioning Brad and bringing you and kind of holding you close to my chest. I value that relationship more than you would ever know. We do this exercise where we text a bunch of people, and I don't want to give it away, but I will tell you this. We've had, just in that little thing, I've had people get dates out of it. Yeah. I had one instance where we had somebody text a customer that owed him $70,000 and hadn't heard from the guy in like 3 years. The customer didn't have the guy's phone number. They connected, and the guy that owed him 70 grand went and wired him the 70 grand in the morning. So by the next morning, we had $70,000 in reclaimed and recouped cash. The number of speaking events and joint ventures that have happened in the room when we're all together on Zoom is, I mean, I don't even know where to begin with that. The other thing that it does is it allows, let's see, how do I want to say this without sounding a little arrogant? The folks that work with us just show up differently. Yes. And it is, for me, it is one of the most powerful, impactful things to watch people that have been through Networking Riches show up differently than they did before. Mm-hmm. And I would actually say, Helen, if I can answer a different question, I'll answer a similar question differently, I guess. Well, that's a lot of words. Is when I go to an event, whether it's a chamber event or I'm at a speaking event, I can tell the person that's been through Networking Riches and not. Mm-hmm. And I'm usually spot on.
Very differently.
You show up very differently. It's just a different point of view. And usually the people that are there are the influencers. They're the ones who have a growing, thriving business. They're doing things differently, yet the same. So they're not standing out like a goofy. Like, I'm not going to tell you to go like put a mask on and go start, jumping around on a table. That's different meetups from the past, but they just show up differently. So when I go to a speaking event and I can look around the room and I can survey the room and I can look around pretty good, I can tell who's been there. For me, that's the biggest impact on me personally.
I love the biggest impact I get from Networking Riches is the breakthrough zones.
Yeah.
Where we put somebody on the chair, we talk about we take one problem from their business, and you and the other coaches get in there and basically blow up their business. And watching the light bulbs go off, not just on the person who is being having their business assessed, but even just watching the crowd in the room, even though it's on Zoom, watching all the faces that are on camera, just seeing go, and you see that look of shock. It's sort of like, wow. And if you listen, and I always tell people, listen with the ears of, oh, that's not my business, I don't need to pay attention. Listen with the ears of, how can I make this work for my business? And you'll listen with a completely different set of ears, and you'll actually find out of the box ideas that may work in your business.
Yeah. So the breakthrough zones are, for me, really fun, because what it does, it allows us to really create some transformational moments in somebody's business.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when we can take somebody who's got something stuck in their business, and even may or may not even include networking, to be honest, but they get stuck, they can't generate leads, or they're stuck at a revenue plateau, or they've got this, like, they've got a problem because they're chasing money they've done work for. Sometimes we realize that you just can't read the label from inside the jar.
Yep.
Right. And so when you bring that into the space, we create a safe space. So we're all friends. We lock it off. So, you know, it's a pretty intimate, safe environment. And so people will share a lot of stuff about their business with other entrepreneurs that are in the same game. And so sometimes it's just a matter of having somebody look at it from a different perspective with a whiteboard. Yep. And just draw it out and go, okay, here's what we're going to do. I'll give you an example. I did a breakthrough zone just a couple of days ago. It was either yesterday or the day before. They all blend together. But I was having a conversation with a manufacturer, right? Mm-hmm. And he was saying to me, he was like, dude, I'm so maxed out. I'm just maxed out on my capacity in my manufacturing business. And if I scale this thing, they make outdoor games, right?
Okay. Yep.
And he was like, we can't squeeze another game out of this thing. If I make one more game a day, I'm going to have to go get another warehouse. I'm going to have to expand. I'm going to have to double the tooling. I don't have that kind of capital, blah, 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 blah. I looked at him, I'm like, wow. I said, you got a lot going on. So I'm assuming you're running 3 shifts. And he said, well, what do you mean? I said, well, you're running a shift, an 8 to 4 shift. And he goes, yeah. I said, well, what time does the afternoon shift come in? He's like, what are you talking about? I'm like, dude, you're running 8 out of 24 hours. I said, all we have to do is add a second shift or add a half a shift that preps the work for the next day. And he just was like, wait. And he sat there for a minute. And then I literally got out on the whiteboard. I'm like, listen, you've got 24 hours. You're only operating those machines 8 hours. If those machines are shut off 16 hours, you don't need more machines. You need to keep the machines burning 16 hours. We literally created a multi-million-dollar revenue stream just by adding 2 things, because then we could add big bundles to the business, and we could do a super summer sizzler set and have all the games come out as a bundle. Then we could have pick and choose 2 out of 3 games, or pick your 5 games, or a la carte games. And he just sat there and he was just like mouth dropped. And it wasn't because I was smart. It was because he was so in his business, and I'm not in his business. I was above his business. And because we can do those above the business viewpoints, we give the entrepreneur and the business owner a bunch of different points of view.
Love it. Absolutely love it. Yeah. And that's what I like, because, you said they're inside the jar. They can't read the label.
Yeah.
And so you've got somebody outside who's reading the label going, yeah, I love that concept of turning an 8-hour business into a 24-hour business. And he doesn't have to.
It happens. And hell, it happens all the time. I mean, I used to work with a direct mail. I've worked in the direct mail space for many, many years. And I'm like, I've always said this. If the printers are printing, we're making money. If the printers are not on, I don't care what else is happening, we're not making money.
Yeah.
So the goal is to get the machines working 24 hours a day. They're just machines. Mm-hmm. And the challenge is that most CEOs don't understand that concept, or some CEOs don't understand that concept. And so what they think is, oh, we need to expand, or we need to lay people off. I'm like, no, if you have to lay people off, why don't you just shift them vertically? And maybe you run a 3-day work week, or in the evening you run machines and you have an entire secondary business if the first business, I'm just going to use the printing business as an example. If the first business is printing business cards all day and you only have enough work to do 8 hours, well, then in the evening and in the early morning, why don't you create a secondary business that prints, wedding invitations or movie posters or movie scripts, right? So sometimes it's a matter of just bringing in somebody that can kind of like shake it up a bit and look around.
That's why I love the breakthrough zones so much.
Yeah, they're fun.
They are so much fun. And there's times my brain's just gone, and I've been watching you do these breakthrough zones for years. I've even been the subject of breakthrough zones, and the gloves come off on those points.
They do. But
I need those gloves to come off.
Because you are one of the few people that is completely open and receptive. And that's why you get the most out of these things, Helen, is that business owners want to go in and like, I know my business better than anybody else. I'm like, okay, cool. Yeah. Good luck. When you're ready to sell it and nobody wants to take it, come talk to me.
Yeah, I'm always excited. Networking Riches, when you announce, to get onto the breakthrough zone, this is what you got to do. And I'm like thinking, who are we going to get in the breakthrough zone today? What are we going to discover today? Because I know I'm going to learn something out of the breakthrough zone. And that's what I absolutely love. And unfortunately, we're at the bottom of it. We've gone over a minute. I said we're going to do 30 minutes. We've gone over. So I apologize for that. But
no worries. No worries. I'm having fun. If you got a couple more questions, let's go.
All right. I've got one more question. This one here, because this will be answered on Networking Riches. But what common mistakes do people make when they start networking, and how can they avoid them?
Awesome. Well, first off, knowing the mistakes people make or knowing the opportunities to do things differently and more profitably should inherently stop people from doing them. It doesn't, but it should, right? So a couple of things that I think are like the easy, like low-hanging fruit that people will hear and they'll be like, oh, yeah. But if you really think about it, it's huge. Number one, not going to an event with an intention or a purpose. I'm just going in, I'm going to the chamber, I'm going to my breakfast, and I'm going to go. So you have no goal, you have no intention, you have no purpose for being, I'm just going to go build relationships. Yeah, that just doesn't cut it. And knowing what events you should actually go to.
Yep.
Right? So if you sell stuff to restaurants, for example, going to a chamber of commerce where there are 2 or 3 restaurants at best isn't going to cut it. You want to go find, where do the restaurant owners hang out, right? The restaurant association. If you sell stuff to attorneys, then you go to the bar associations. So that's number 2. Number 3, another easy one is to recognize that if you don't know what the lifetime value of a customer is, you have no business going to an event.
Yep.
This is my opinion. Because if you knew what your lifetime value of a customer was, you would show up differently than probably what you are. I think another one of the things that I would invite you to look at to do differently is going to an event and drinking alcohol.
Yeah.
And this is a biggie. I understand that people say, "Oh, I'm an introvert, and getting a beer, getting a glass of wine loosens me up," and I understand all of that. However, I have watched with my own eyes literally tens of millions of dollars of deals fall apart because somebody drinks too much, they have one too many sips, and so they start talking when they should be listening. They reveal secrets that they should have kept to themselves. They make an unforced error, if you will, in the game. And just in today's marketplace, there are a lot of families that struggle with addiction. And I cannot tell you how many times I have watched somebody find their absolute ideal client and try to go have a conversation with them or whatever, and they've been drinking, and somebody in their family is in AA, or maybe they're in AA, and it's an automatic stop.
Yep.
Right? And people will say, I get it. People will go, oh, well, those aren't my people. And blah, 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 blah. I'm like, okay, cool. Then find yourself selling your business. When it doesn't sell, give me a call.
Yeah. Excellent. Great points. And we're going to finish there. So we've got Networking Riches coming up June 25th and 26th. And if you go to havetonetwork.com, then you can come join us.
Come join us, you guys. It's going to be fun. We have an absolute blast at these things. I mean, I have to tell you, we'll probably have 300 people register, 100 people will show up, standard. Come show up. Here's the good part. If it's terrible, you just have to hit the red button that says leave meeting. It's very simple. Like I think people it's like, we're going to have a blast. We're going to make you some money. We're going to save you a bunch of time doing it. You're going to meet some really cool people. It's a hoot nanny.
Oh yeah. And the thing is that the thing I like about Networking Riches is it's hands-on. There's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of stuff that you've got planted in there with exercise where people actually get to practice some of what you're talking about as well, which is really cool. And I always remember the one that got a text message from the landlord to say they had a month's free rent. I always remember that one too. So you never know what's going to happen at this thing. You never know what results are going to come through. And I like that $70,000 one. That was awesome.
The other real important thing is this event is done in what I like to say, it is done in real time. Mm-hmm. So for me, we have the framework. The framework's not going to change, but the conversations around the framework change based on whether you're there or not. So we ask questions. We can build out different questions and different responses based on you being in the room. And so we want you to come hang out with us. It's a day. It's literally like a day and a half. We go from 8 to 2 the first day Pacific time, and we go from 8 to 1 the second day. It's a blast. We're gonna have a good time, and I want you to come and hang out with us.
Excellent. Well, Casey, thank you so much for taking time out of your evening to come and join us. We've totally enjoyed having you here, and we always love having you in. So, and for everybody. And for everybody else, go to havetonetwork.com and come join us. It's going to be a blast. And the conversations that will develop during the training and everything else, because somebody will ask a question and then Casey will get in there. And Casey he's a squirrel. He goes off in this direction. He goes off in that. But I will tell you, the best nuggets come out of those squirrel moments. I have witnessed it for the last 10 years that he's been doing these things. So anyway, so come join us then. Casey, thank you. Totally appreciate you taking time out of your evening to come and join us.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Helen. And congrats on like a crap ton of podcasts. I mean, I remember giving you the quickie, like I want a video a day, and here we are 1,700 shows or some odd later. We've got a 5-year anniversary coming up in July of you doing lives every single day. I mean, that's a pretty spectacular, monumental task to do. So congratulations.
Thank you. I almost screwed it up one day. I got to it was 11:45 p.m. and I went, did I do my live today? And I had to get on the computer and went, oh, shoot, didn't do my live. And and I got it done before midnight as well. So that was even better.
Hey, you're committed. I love it.
Yes. So everybody, we will see you guys back here tomorrow evening at 6 p.m. where we're going to be talking about Dial M for Murder. And because we're doing the classic movie month this month.
Very cool. Very cool.
Dial M for Murder, and we're also going to be talking about Guess Who's Coming to Dinner. So with that, you guys, we're out of here. Have a super fantastic, sparkling evening. Thank you again, Casey, and we'll catch you guys tomorrow evening at 6 p.m. Pacific. Hey,
awesome. Bye, everyone.